Welcome class back to Chapter 9, Classes of your Python Crash Course textbook. This is the last lecture video for Chapter 9. We'll look at the last three objectives: importing classes, the Python standard library, and styling classes. So importing classes, we imported our functions in Chapter 8. It is basically the same. So we're going to take our individual classes and we're going to store them in modules. And we've done this with Alien Invasion. We took the information for settings and we moved it over into a settings.py file, created a class for that. We did the same thing for bullets and for Alien and also the ship file, and then we went in and imported those classes into our main program, which was alien_invasion. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our car class. We are going to just have that stored in just car.py, and we're going to have the current body statements. We're going to store that in my car.py, and then we're going to go ahead and import car into my car.py. So what do I mean by all of that? Okay, this is the body statements. This is what actually executes. Okay, so this is your class up here. So only car, just car, is just going to have just the class. So I'm going to go ahead and take these statements and I'm going to store them in the file mycar.py. So I now have those body statements in my_car.py. The car class is just, or the car.py file is just the car class itself. So in order for me to use this, I have to do that import statement. So we're going to go ahead and import. We're going to say from car, okay, so car.py, import the car class. Now to do that, let's go ahead and execute these statements with our import statement. Okay, and we can see we have our information down here. This car has 23 miles, 75, and 175 miles, just like we did when we ran it in our previous video. Storing multiple classes in a module. So we're going to take the battery class and the electric car class, and we're going to also insert them into our car.py file. And then we're going to go ahead and import the electric car class. Now the reason that we only have to do an import on electric car is because battery, remember, battery is assigned to that particular attribute within electric car. So we'll go ahead and take these statements from electric car and we'll add them here at the bottom of car. Okay, so now we have the class of battery and we also have the class of electric car. We're going to create a new file called my electric car, where we're going to do the import statement of electric car. So we do our import statement from car, import electric car. Now the beauty of this statement is that electric car is a child class of car. So essentially we're getting the car class, okay, through this child class, okay, and also we're getting the battery class because that's assigned as an attribute in electric car. So I'm going to go ahead and run, okay, and we get the same information that we did prior in when we were running when we were running the electric car class. Importing multiple classes from a module. So if we needed to import multiple classes, we would do it this way: from whatever module, import whatever class names and separate them by a comma. Importing an entire module. Okay, when we do that, when we just say import car and we're not specifying exactly what we're importing, we have to prefix, okay, prefix those class names in this case when we're creating these instances with that module name, just like we did when we were working with functions. Okay, importing all classes from a module, so just like when we did with functions. Okay, we say import module name, import, and then the asterisk. Now, caution on this method is not recommended for two reasons. It's helpful to be able to read the import statements at the top of the file and get a clear sense of which classes a program uses. Okay, with this approach, we don't know which classes we are importing. Okay, it could also lead to confusion with names in the file. If you accidentally import a class with the same name as something else in your program file, you can create errors that are hard to diagnose. importing a module into a module. Okay, so from car, import car. Okay, so if we separated and we brought the car class out into its separate file, just the car class, and then we had the class of battery and electric car defined in electric car itself. So it's just separating out the modules in a different way. So how do we find our own workflow? So start out by keeping your code structure simple. Try to do everything in one file. So in our example, we had the battery class, the electric car class, and the car class. We had them all in one file. Then we start maybe moving those into other files, okay, if that feels like it's comfortable for us to work with. The Python standard library. The Python standard library is a set of modules included with every Python installation. And the reason that we're looking at these is that there are some libraries out there that we're going to use, okay, for our last two particular labs. And one of them is the random library, where we're going to look at a class called randint. So using our Python prompt, we're going to import randint, okay, so random integer, okay, from our random module. And then we'll call random integer, okay, giving it a range. In this case, 1, 6. When I executed this code, I got the random number back of 2 in that range. If I did something like this again, now I get back 3. Okay, and you might get the same number back, just depending on how it comes through. Okay, so random integer is that example. Next, we'll look at choice. So again, this is coming from the random module. We set up a list called players, and players has 5 values in it. And then we run choice off of that players list and store the result in first up. So in this case, the first up value that came back was Florence. Okay, so we'll go ahead and run choice again. Okay, and then get first up. Okay, and we've got Florence as well. So let's go ahead and try it one more time here. Hopefully we don't get Florence again. Okay, this time we've got Michael. So again, just like with random integer, you might have some repeats, okay, but if you run it enough times, you should go ahead and get different values. Next, we're going to look at your 2 final labs for chapter 9, and they are dice and lottery. So we'll make a class called die with one attribute called sides, which has a default value of 6. Then write a method called rule die that prints a random number between 1 and the number of sides that the die has. Make a 6-sided die and roll it 10 times, and then you'll want to make a 10-sided die and a 20-sided die and roll each die 10 times. So we're going to go through this lab, kind of set up a template for you, and then we'll look at 9-14. Okay, so I've started a template here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and import that random integer module in our random integer function within the random module. We set up a class called die. Make sure that you fill in these doc statements that I have missing here. I'm going to go ahead and put this one in here as well. Okay, and then it said to set up by default that we have a 6-sided die. We're going to go ahead and assign sides to our attribute of sides. Okay, then we create a function called roll die. Okay, so we're going to dig into the code here. So we're going to do results, okay, and we're going to do results stored in a list itself. Okay, and then you're going to do a for statement, okay, using range. Okay, so I'm just going to put in here for statement using range, and we have 10 rows. Okay, so you want to use that. Okay, and then we're going to store the result. Okay, so we got to store the result, or actually we got to figure out what the result is here. So we're going to use random integer to do that. So result, there can be some syntax errors here just because of that commented out for statement. So random integer, okay, 1 to the number of sides. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and add that result. Okay, add result to results. Okay, so for statement is going to do our 10 rolls. Okay, so we're throwing the dice 10 times. Okay, and we're going to do 1 to the number of sides. So in this case, 1 through 6. We store that in result. First roll, we get 2. Second roll, we get 4. Third roll, we get 6. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and add that to the results list. So when we get done here, we're going to have 10 numbers. Okay, so 10 rolls of that die. Okay, and then you're going to want to go ahead and print that information out. Okay, so print something like 10 rolls of a 6-sided die. Okay, and then print the results. Okay, then you're going to create an instance name, and you can just call it D6. Okay, and you're going to base that off of your die class. Okay, now by default we're at 6 sides, so we don't even have to send that along. Okay, and then you have to call roll die. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run this for you, okay, and so that you can kind of see what the results will be. Okay, so without giving you the code, here is an example. 10 rolls of a 6-sided die, 10 rolls of a 10-sided die, because that's the additional portion of our assignment, and then 10 rolls of a 20-sided die. Our last lab is lottery. So make a list or tuple containing a series of 10 numbers and 5 letters. And then randomly select 4 numbers or letters from the list and print a message saying that any ticket matching these 4 numbers or letters wins a prize. So I'm going to be very, very specific as to 9-14 as to what I want you to use. Okay, I want you to use the sample, okay, the sample method from random. Okay, I want you to Google it. It is very, very easy to use. Now the results of it would be something like this. Congrats to the holder of the ticket. Okay, and then these would be the 4 that are pulled. So again, just to repeat, you're going to use the sample method from the random module. Do a Google of it. I won't accept any other way to go about doing 9-14. Okay, so we're going to wrap up by looking at styling of classes. So we looked at styling of functions in chapter 8. So classes, class names should be written in camel case. Okay, so we talked about title case because we didn't have more than one word. If you have more than one word, you're going to use camel case. So each one is going to be capitalized, each word, just the first letter. Instant and module names in lowercase and underscores between the words. Every function, class, and module should have a doc string. Okay, make sure that they're there. I will dock you points. I will dock you 1 point for every doc string that is missing. Immediately following its definition. Brief description of what that function class does. Blank lines, 1 blank line between methods, 2 blank lines between our classes. And then import statements, standard libraries are first, followed by a blank line. So like in Alien Invasion, we import Pygame, we import sys, and then we go ahead and bring in all of our other modules like bullets and alien and so on. So if you have questions on this section, please reach out.